Creeps from the Deep. Welcome back to the Bionicle Inspiration series. We're finishing up our coverage of the Mari collab, which has been so much fun to talk about because these mocks are just brilliant. And we're finishing on a bang because we're going to be talking about the Barraki, which were some of the villains of the Mari wave of LEGO sets. So hopefully we can inspire you a little bit with some of these fantastic Bionicle mocks. Let's dive into the very first one. This is by Corn Builder, and this is Karapar. I always liked Karapar because he had such unique colours, and I don't know, he was just my favourite Barraki. This one adds a little bit more gold to the colour scheme, which works surprisingly well with the original colour. It did have that sort of slight goldish tint to it, so that's good. I do like his almost crown that he's got on his head. It could just be a part of the armour or just a part of his, underwater carapace or whatever it is, but to me, the way that those little spikes at the back just sort of rear up there, it kind of resembles a crown, which I think is kind of funny. I could see him being really egotistical, and it's like, no, call me King Karapar, which, I don't know if that's necessarily a part of his character. I don't know too much about the character specifically. I just remember the memories I had playing with this as a kid, but I still think that's a fun little detail there, and it does look good. The whole head design itself is very nice. I think the inclusion of a lot of different greebles around the mouth area there is a wise choice. It looks very similar to that of the mouth area of a crab, but it kind of looks like a lot of the different mouth areas of a bunch of different underwater creatures. So I think that's a nice inclusion, and it fits with the overall aesthetic here nicely too. Seeing some of those almost chainsaw jet pieces there was a very good inclusion. I also enjoy how he has reimagined the squid launcher here. It looks a lot more like some sort of launcher or underwater gun. The fact that there's these kind of canisters with lime pieces in them there, it kind of gives me this vibe that maybe the squid are forcefully put into this gun, mixed in with other weird chemicals or poisons or toxins, and then shot at their enemies there, which seems more fitting for the villain characters here of the Barraki. So just that in general is a very nice gun design, that's for sure. I also enjoy the inclusion of this Takanuva armor piece, which is also the head of one of the other Barraki that we're going to be talking about very soon in the episode. But of course it came on gunmetal in Takanuva himself. But seeing that used as a pincer is a very nice design and works with the rest of the aesthetic of this mock very nicely. Bricklesson has reimagined Mantax, calling him the Fallen Sea Angel. I adore how this looks. The inclusion of what I believe is some custom cloth elements, because I don't think those are official with the texture of them and the fact that one side appears to be black and the other side appears to be white there. But the very smooth aquatic manta ray looking texture of these works perfectly with the rest of the textures all throughout this mock. There's a wonderful, smooth, wet, stingray skin-like quality to this, which is brilliant. It's nice to see cloth elements so beautifully integrated with the rest of the mock here so that they don't really feel alien. I was actually watching some videos on the Atlanta Brickco Lego channel, and they were talking recently about Lego pieces that often get thrown away because a lot of people assume it's not Lego. And they were saying that, cloth and those other kind of plastic pieces that are similar in quality are something that a lot of people who aren't super educated about Lego may just not even think that they are Lego because they don't really look like Lego, right? I'm sure even to a degree Lego doesn't probably directly produce them. I'm sure they get someone else to do it, and they, it's still a part of Lego, but it's not directly made in Billund. I don't know, I'm assuming that, but it seems likely. But still, it's very different from your typical plastic, especially when it's cloth or plastic, but a different type of plastic. So it's lovely to see that just brilliantly paired with official Lego pieces in that sense. One of my favorite details is the foot design here. There's something about it that has that webbed foot quality that you would very typically see on more aquatic-based creatures. It's specifically using this piece here, and using that in the context of a foot with the rest of this mock here is brilliant, especially because those two kind of larger bits of fur that sort of protrude out of the front look a little bit like claws as well. So it's nicely integrated into this, and that's a very clever part use. I love the pops of pink on this as well. The black and a little bit of white with a bit of grey, silver and stuff like that is a great colour scheme. But adding in the pop of purple on the eyes and all throughout the body and just different key areas there, it just rounds this mock off in such a beautiful way. And the original one didn't have that color introduced into it, but I'm so glad he put that into this revamp because it's just the cherry on top. It's beautiful to see. It's amazing what a little tiny extra bit of color when you inject it into the mock can do. It's really cool. The final thing I also enjoy is the pose for this. It very much looks like they've just sort of swum out of the depths of the water, moving a little bit further up, and they've dived in front of someone and they've just extended their arms out and they're ready to strike Pridec or something like that. You get the sense how this creature would move and interact in an underwater setting, and that's really cool. And the posing and the photography do so much for a mock, so it's great to see it perfectly executed here on this brilliant revamp of Mantax. Let's move over to Takadox, which is the guy I was talking about before, and this has been built by Johan Dakish, who I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong, but he's a really cool guy. So there's a lot of good stuff with this one. I love how the eye design has been made here. It's using these antenna pieces, and they come in a variety of different colors, of course, but you can very easily remove the black antenna piece out of it and have that bottom piece still left over, and it does work very nicely as an eye design that has a pupil to it, and it's a bit more rectangular as well, so it works very nicely on these evil Barraki characters here. Love that design. Seen similar designs before on other Bionicle mocks, but hey, it works brilliantly and was the perfect choice for this eye design on this mock. I also love the chest, both parts of the chest, whether it's the back of the chest there, how all of these CCBS armor shells have been integrated to kind of look like how you see the back of a lobster, for example, looking. And I guess while we're talking about lobsters, I think that the front of the chest also kind of resembles the many different legs that you see on a lobster or many other underwater creatures as well. So nice to see that integrated there, and nice that it's a different color. I think it could have gotten away with that being like a darker blue or a black, or back to that dark azure as well, but I like that it's red. It seems very appropriate and fitting. I mean, when you look at lobsters, they're pretty similar in that sense. They do have slight discoloration all throughout them. They're not just that pure red like you see in a cartoon or something. It works really, really nicely. So a great way of still capturing a lot of the original elements of Takadox, but changing it up and fitting it in more with references to actual underwater creatures as well. It's been very nicely done here. Over to the next one. This is a beauty. It's by Ryan Z, and this is Pridec. Immediately when I saw this, not so much the rest of the body, but more specifically the head, has a really nice shark quality to it. And Pridec was meant to be more of a shark-like character, but if I'm going to be totally honest with you, I remember as a kid being like, I don't really see it, but okay. Kind of as an adult, I see it a little bit more now, but it's still a little bit of a push, at least in my opinion. I'm sure someone in the comments will be like, I don't know, Ben, look at this, this, and this, and you'll blow my mind. But still, to me, I think this head does a much better job at looking a lot more shark-like. And I also love, too, how they've introduced a bit of a fin on the head there in silver. The original one still sort of had that fin, which is very shark-like, of course. But I like that it's silver because it nicely integrates with the silver claws that all the Barraki had around their mask. And it's nice to see that introduced here, but in a different way that works with this unique head design. It's a great way of doing that. Another unique detail, which was, I guess, in the color scheme of Pridec, but I love how they've sort of retrofitted it here, is these crazy, weird, almost red canisters on the back design here. To me, it looks like they've injected themselves with some sort of toxin, and they've got these barrels on their back there to keep that toxin constantly flowing through their body. And when we look specifically at the upper arm design here, we can see one of those Borok shield headpieces that came on the original Borok. And to me, what that looks like is veins being kind of pumped full of liquid of some sort. And I love how that looks. I've never seen that piece being used in that way, and I don't know, that's what I see is liquid coursing through the body there. I love how that's done. And it kind of reminds me of like Bane from DC, having that venom kind of coursing through his body. And I love that take. I think it's a very different, unique way of building Pridec, and a great idea for a villain of having stuff coursing through their body and using that piece to illustrate that. It's genius. I love how that looks. And overall, I love how all of this looks. There's a brilliant silhouette to this character, and a wonderful menacing quality to them, which is just perfect for the Barraki. And the fact that this is one of the larger ones within this collab here, a little bit more of a Titan take on Pridec, I also enjoy seeing that. I think of all the characters, he lends himself nicely to that. And this is just so beautiful. One final detail I love is the leg design here. We can see a bunch of tubing that's sort of transitioning from the top down to the lower leg there. And I like that some of it's silver, there's a little bit of brown, and there also appears to be a very slight hint of lime in there too. So it's nice to see if you want to kind of play with wires in that sense. You can afford to introduce some brand new colors, even a color like lime, which is in very direct contrast to everything else on this mock. But because it is those sort of mechanical details underneath, it's I think you can get away with it. It's good. It's really good. This is a brilliant mock, one of the best in this collab, that's for sure. And I mean, there's a lot of good ones, so, you know. I love what Velociraptor here has done with Alec. He was very unique because he had a bit of a different color scheme, really. I still don't know what that specific color was on Alec. Of course, you can see it on the head design here, but it had that wonderful translucent quality to it, and that was the same on the spikes. So I like that in this revamp, they've removed those spikes entirely, but they've introduced these translucent pieces that came on the jungle beast. What's it called? Creature of Jungle. I think that's a brilliant inclusion because that piece is so similar to those original colors and is just a perfect complement for this mock. And it's a nice way of still having that same spiked back aesthetic, but doing it a little bit differently and slimming it down too. This is a much more lanky version of Alec, but there is something about that certainly fits that title of Creeps from the Deep. It's very cool, especially his longer fingernails and his weird sort of cybernetic arm. There's some great inclusions on this mock that I think perfectly fit within that vein of the Creeps from the Deep, the Barraki themselves. Something else I enjoy is the waist design. It's using the Speeder Demon mask or the Black Phantom mask in lime, and the way that it's been nicely paired with that Gresh armor piece there. It's beautiful. It looks like those two pieces just flow one into the other. I love that kind of shaping on a mock, and seeing it on that waist design there is very, very cool. I also enjoy the leg design too, with a little bit of fin action going on there, using some minifigure flipper pieces to blend in with that fish aesthetic there. A nice inclusion as a tiny little detail, but it does a lot. It's beautiful. Another thing that does a lot is this fantastic head design, still using the original mask, changing up those silver claws, making them a bit longer, but way cooler, and giving him a nice toothy grin mouth here. This is using some of these awesome cow horn pieces in tan. They're a little bit more common these days. They used to be a bit rare in tan, but man, they perfectly complement that Alec mask there and make him look a lot scarier, which is just beautiful to see. So a fantastic mock and a brilliant reimagining of the character here. Over now to the last one. This is by Aiden Builds, and this is Kalmar. So I think this is one of the biggest departures from the original source material, and I kind of love it, especially on a mock like Kalmar, which I think, you know, has more of a squid-like quality to it, or almost more of a Cthulhu-like quality to them. Very Lovecraftian in nature, and especially when you're playing with underwater stuff, I feel like you can really get away with weird, crazy Lovecraftian designs with heaps of tentacles, big toothy maw mouths, and other just completely strange and out there different designs, because the deeper in the ocean you get, the weirder the creatures start to look. And, you know, there's still so much of the ocean we as humans haven't even explored, so who knows what kind of weird creatures are down there that we just don't even know about. I like that this mock encapsulates all of that, because that's perfect for bad guy underwater characters here. Do your research on all sorts of weird underwater creatures, because you get a lot of good inspiration for something if that's an aesthetic that you want to play with. Now, some stuff I love is the fact that he still has his awesome tentacle arm, but the fact that there's way more of them now, and that it looks a lot more like a squid or a kraken in that sense. I love that. The beautiful pop of Keat Orange on those eyes is a wonderful inclusion. The original never had that, but it works brilliantly on this mock. And seeing that crazy toothy mouth that I briefly spoke about before, I love how that looks, especially because this body is just a weird circle shape. There's something so almost cute about it. It looks a little bit like Mike Wazowski, almost like a creepy version of Mike Wazowski, which I like, but I can't believe I said that. Let's compare Kalmar to Mike Wazowski in this episode today. But he's wonderful. I think this is encapsulating so much of the original essence of the character, but also taking it to a completely different area, which is so fun when you can do that with revamps. Love it. I also just love too how the Kalmar mask, the tentacles that kind of came off of the back of the head there, how they're forming that upper leg design there. And I think that beautifully pairs with the toothy mouth, the tentacles coming out of the back, and the tentacles on the arm. There's a lot of good tentacle play with this mock. It's looking beautiful. So Aiden, you nailed it. This is so cool. So nice work to all the builders in the Mari collab, and specifically with these Barraki mocks today as well. You nailed it. You did a brilliant job. These are some fantastic revamps for some of the, I would say, one of the best waves of Bionicle. The Mari collab was just that awesome. I said the Mari collab. That was a sort of Freudian slip, because this Mari collab was good. I meant to say the Mari theme itself was really, really good. It's one of the better Bionicle waves of sets. But you know, of course, a collab's going to do well if it's basing itself off of one of the better waves too. So love your work, guys. You nailed it. If you want to submit some of your own mocks, whether you've got a collab coming up or one that you've already done, or you just want to see your mock on the Bionicle Inspiration series, or for HF Feb, which is coming up real soon, still haven't recorded that episode, so there's still time to submit your HF Feb mocks, then you can submit them to the email that's currently on your screen. I'm probably actually going to do a couple more episodes of HF Feb, but stay tuned for the weekend. I'll talk a little bit more about that in that episode, so stay tuned. You can also check the links in the description to see more of the mocks that these builders have built, or you could check out with some pictures and other further details on their accounts. Links all in the description there. Check it out. There's also links to my own social media. You can check out my Patreon, see some of the bonus content that I've got going on over there, or you can just check out my social media and you can look at things like my Instagram, where I've recently posted my mock for HF Feb. There is also a video here on the channel too, so you can check either one out. I won't be fussed. Thank you very much for watching. Happy building, and bye for now.